Good afternoon, one and all present. On behalf of Department of Foods and Nutrition, Faculty of Family and Community Science, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, in association with Foods and Nutrition Alumni Association, Nutrition Society of India, Vadodara chapter, Indian Association of Parental and Enteral Nutrition, IAPEN Vadodara chapter. I welcome you all who have joined us on Zoom, watching us live on Facebook, and others who will be watching us on our YouTube channel to the fifth webinar under the webinar series as a part of National Nutrition Month Celebration 2025. Before we begin with today's talk, I would like to invite our in charge head and Deputy Director of Office of International Affairs at the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, Professor Vanisha Nambia, to orient us about the rich legacy of the Department of Foods and Nutrition. Very briefly, if I introduce Professor Vanisha Nambia, over the past 33 years, she has been engaged in academics and nutrition in the area of public health nutrition, government programs, policies on maternal, infant, and young child nutrition, underprivileged children, school health, food science, antioxidants, NCDs, preventing diseases, international health, and women empowerment, including projects on childhood obesity and behavior change communication models for improving IYCF practices. She has completed over 33 research projects funded by WHO, UNICEF, Government of Gujarat, and CSRs of reputed industries. She is a core team member for the curriculum development for the nutrition and dietetics for National Commission for Allied Health Care Profession, which is implemented by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. She has published 75 research papers and 9 books. She is a recipient of several recognitions and awards, including the prestigious Fellow of International Union of Nutrition Sciences, FIUNS, London 2022, member of WHO IC2 for 2 consecutive terms, member of WHO Guidelines Development Group for Childhood Obesity, member of NCHAP Curriculum Development Task Force for Nutrition and Dietetics, Nutrition Leadership Awards in Jaipur, Alive and Thrive Lactation Scholarship, Integrated Health Scholarship for Allied Health Professionals 2022 by International Federations for the Surgery of Obesity and Metabolic Disorders, Fellowship Cornell University, New York, USA 2015, Young Scientist Award in NSI in 1992, Young Scientist Senior Award by Nutrition Society of India in the year 2007, Sight and Life Award Switzerland in 1998, IDA Golden Jubilee Award, and many other like Swarnapadaks, Kellogg's Community Nutrition Award from IDA, Advisor, UNICEF, Odisha Center of Excellence, Diabetes, India, International Diabetes Federation, Brussels, and many others. She is a well-traveled global researcher and invited speaker in several health and nutrition forums. I invite you, ma'am, to briefly orient us to the rich legacy of foods and nutrition.
Thank you, Shruti, for the kind introduction. I warmly welcome Professor Vinay Raole. Are you, sir, are you there online? Can I switch on the video, please?
Yes.
And before his lecture, I would like to share about the department whom I'm heading, the Department of Foods and Nutrition, which is under the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. And it is one of the premier departments of the university and is standing tall since past 50 years. So this department is under the Faculty of Family and Community Sciences, which houses 5 major departments. And our Department of Foods and Nutrition offers comprehensive programs at undergraduate level, postgraduate level, as well as PhD. and our department aims to create world-class committed public health and nutritionists, dietetics, and food science professionals. So basically, all the three major streams of nutrition are catered by our department, and we persistently upgrade our curriculum. We have already adapted the National Education Policy curriculum and will be soon going to the 4th year. We offer undergraduate program in 4 streams, that is dietetics, public health nutrition, food science and quality, as well as we have a foods and nutrition consolidated program, which is a higher payment program. And we give master's degree in dietetics as well as public health nutrition. We offer several PG diplomas, including food service management, applied nutrition, and we are also going to start public health nutrition PG diploma. And we offer full-fledged on-campus PhD program. Ever since its inception, since 1950, our department has grown and has been recognized by several national government as well as international institutions. And our curriculum and our teaching style focuses on innovation, skill development, critical thinking, and problem solving. We are engaged in teaching, research, extension, as well as administration. And our philosophy, teaching philosophy of whether dietetics, whether public health nutrition, or whether food science and quality control focuses on new evidence generation, focuses on capacity building, system strengthening, advocacy, building partnerships and convergence. And we believe in working for the sustainable development goals because nutrition is linked with all the sustainable development goals. We have a full-fledged dietary nutrition counseling center, and it is free of charge. So I request every listener to come and avail the services in our department. And we are engaged with most of the national and international governing bodies which are related to foods, nutrition, livelihood, or development of the nation. So I welcome all of you to the heritage city of Vadodara, which has a palace which is larger than the Buckingham Palace. Our Honorable Chancellor Ma'am lives here, and we also invite you to visit our Department of Foods and Nutrition and engage with us in any form possible. With this overview about the department, I now hand over to Dr. Shruti for carrying out further deliberations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking us through the journey of foods and nutrition and the activities carried out by the department. Traditional food symbolizes society's culture, history, and environment, and blending it with scientific wisdom and culinary practices has passed down through many generations till date. Today, whatever we are following is rooted with the traditional foods, and that is what is the need of the hour. The speaker for today's webinar is Professor Vinay Raole, former head of Department of Botany, Faculty of Science, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. Sir has over 34 years of extensive research experience and nearly 4 decades of immense research work carried out in this field. He has published 85 research papers, books, chapters in books, and completed many projects of national and international repute. He has also a patent on polyherbal composition for female reproductive system in the year 2024. He has many prestigious awards to his credit. I'm just naming a few. He is a recipient of Dr. Y.S. Murthy Gold Medal and Professor V.V. Shivarajan Gold Medal Award. He was also a core committee member of the peer committee member of NAC in the year 2017 as well as in the year 2019. Sir is also a part of many advisory committees such as Department of Geology and Remote Sensing and Geographic Information System, which we call as GIS today, Center in Shivaji University, Gwalior Forestry and Biodiversity. It is an honor to invite you for the talk on science of traditional foods and its cultural importance. We welcome you, sir, on behalf of Department of Foods and Nutrition, and I invite you for your talk.
I'm audible, Shruti?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for my introduction. Okay. I will start other things, especially the presentation. Okay. Just one moment.
Yes, sir.
Just a moment. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is slide
Presentation.
visible? Presentation is visible or not?
Yeah, yes, sir. Presentation was visible, but now it is not.
Just one moment. Now is it possible?
Yes, sir. It is visible and it is on full screen mode.
Okay. All right. Can I begin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the title itself is talking about two particular points. One, the food, and the second, the culture. Now the point is, here I'm just introducing it initially from the aspect of the nature, and it's the biodiversity wherein we are already surviving. At the same time, we are living. So that is why I'm already starting with one of our traditional concept of the drama as well as the traditional concept of the nature. Especially when I talk about this particular thing, then it is always going to have the different aspects. Especially our tradition always talks about the creators as well as how they are always going to perform the rituals, and these rituals are always going to have the sacrificer as well as the two regulators of the time, the sun and the moon, as well as the sound and the quality, as well as the cosmos, which is described as the origin of all the seeds, that is the earth, and by which we are always going to help the bread, that is the air. So it is nothing but I'm talking about the Pancha Mahabhutas, where each and every individual is always capable enough to survive. Now, this is nothing but a depiction of the Mother Earth, which has already been bestowed on us its full bounty. And from this bounty only, we are always going to collect all the informations related to our culture, related to our food, related to our clothing, related to our shelter, everything. And that is where we are always going to say that is nothing but under Prakriti. The Prakriti is nothing but under primitive, the creation which has already been there. So, in terms of the life sciences, we always consider it as a feminine character, which is always capable enough to reproduce as well as reproduce. Produce and reproduce, both things are always going to happen. And that is why we are always bestowing as well as worshipping the Mother Earth as a goddess. And that is why whenever we talk about it, first and foremost, we are also going to talk about the biodiversity. Now, when I'm using the biodiversity, yes, the topic, whatever I'm talking, it is always related to the biodiversity at present. And that is why I'm talking about by initiating my lecture with the biodiversity. What is the biodiversity? Do you know anything about it? At present, also scientifically, culturally, emotionally, we are always talking about it is nothing but the Panchatantra story of the 5 or 6 blinds and the elephant, wherein wherever that one, each and every blind man is touching the elephant, and he's always starting describing. The same way, whenever we are talking about the biodiversity, whosoever talks, he or she is always talking or explaining by his own way. Because if I'm coming from the plant sciences, another person is coming from the animal sciences, another person is coming from the food sciences, we are always going to describe the biodiversity and its utility and its availability, which we always considered as a natural resources. And these natural resources are always going to give us the full bounty. And that's why we are unable to comprehend it together as well as combine it together. And this is a really good opportunity for me to explain how the scientists are talking about and how the scientists are thinking about the food and the recipes as well as the cuisine of India. So now this is nothing but in the biodiversity, which I have talked. Now, living with the harmony in the nature is already going to talk about it. And whenever we talk about literary resources, the Raghuvamsham, which has already been given, this is nothing but where that the particular one is already talking about it when he or she is already, she is moving the in the forest areas, and that's how the Raghuvamsham is considered to be one of the basic concept which has already talked about and told about. At the same time, it is also the nature is talking about the traditional practices, religious beliefs, religious rituals, the folklore, as well as the arts, and it has already been reflected not only in Indian society but globally also since time immemorial. And that is why from 1992 onwards, especially the Stockholm conference as well as the Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, the global concerns are already been raised about the sustenance and the sustainable development and the conservation of natural resources. And that is where sometimes it is always going to play an important role. Now, this is another one by the Kalidasa, that is Abhigyanam Shakuntalam. There also he has talked about the way we are always talking about the nature. Because at present also, we do not know exactly how exactly the science and the nature is already working in a most appropriate way, or it is going not doing in a proper way. That is why whenever we talk about the communities, whenever we talk about the biological organisms, there itself the plants and animals and the human beings, we are always going to go hand in hand. And that's why the biologist always includes the ecologists, the economists, the gardeners, citizens, workers, all are always looking and always talking about the natural resource prevailing in his or her area, and they are always talking about their conservation, their sustenance, their maintenance, their utility, its commercialization, etc. And that is why each and every individual is already considered to have its own particular viewpoint about that particular natural resource. And that is why whenever we talk about the food, food is also nothing but an always been made by our grandparents as well as our forefathers in general by utilizing available natural resources in their own vicinity. That is why we have to talk about the biodiversity, or why we have to talk about the tradition, or why we have to talk about the culture. There are these three particular points, although the word is already common, biodiversity, that word you can just talk it about or keep it otherwise. But it is nothing but the three basic steps. Why we have to talk about the biodiversity? We might need it. Because this is always talking about the medicine, pharmacy, as well as ecosystem services, and as well as the continuity of the life on the earth. We like it, yes. In this category, we always talk about the contribution of the quality of life, outdoor recreations, scenic enjoyment. But at the same time, we have also tried to preserve the refuges of the wilderness. Because this one is always going to give us other resources also, which we may not know it. At the same time, the third point, which is also that much of importance, that we think we ought to Why we have to ought to? Because we have the duty to preserve and protect the biodiversity on the basis of the higher moral principles as well as the living components prevailing in the vicinity of our habitat. Now, this is just, I'm just giving initiated this talk from this because whenever we talk about the tradition and when we talk about the culture, so that is where there is one particular shloka is there. Vanaspatayaha pranarupaha brahmaswarupaha svishivarupaha roganashakaha पर्यावरण संरक्षः अस्माकं रक्षकः च सत्यदण्डः सोमो वनस्पति. So these are the few examples which I am taking it. That is, always all these plants are already having its own medicinal importance, and our traditional text as well as the medicinal text, especially from the Ayush background, they always talk about these plants are already originated from one or another deity. So it means one or another deity is already related with one or another medicinal plant. And that is how, whenever we talk about this relationship, that also been usually utilized in the food system of our Indian recipes. So now, this is the two particular things where we people know commonly. One is particular nothing but in the Cynodon dactylon. Don't worry about it. Forget about the botanical name. It is considered to be the durvas. The durvas are always offered just another 15 days back or so, not or 15 days also. Just 5 days back only, the Ganesh Visarjan has already done on the Ananda Chaturdashi. But for last 10 days, whenever the Lord Ganesha is already been installed and its Prana Pratishtha has been done, that time we are always offering the Durva because it always symbolizes the humility, the purity, resilience. And that's why it is already been offered. But why it has been offered? Because it is also having the certain phytoconstituents which are detoxifying and immune boosting properties. That's why we are just giving the information through the rituals, but in traditional way, that this plant has to be used for this and this particular problem. Another one is an angel. It is nothing but in the bili. The bili is nothing but, and it is always offered to the Lord Shiva. During the Shivratri, daily also people are offering. So what is it is having? It is also having the vitamin C, vitamin A, B, vitamins B1, B6, B12. At the same time, the bili fal, that is nothing but, and the fruit is always going to control the diabetes, hypertension, heart problems, cholesterol. It also having the antioxidants and laxative property. So it means it is also the medicinally important. So now these two particular plants are just given as an example because one is given or offered to the Lord Ganapati, another one is offered to the Lord Shiva. And they are having their own particular medicinal properties also. So the people should know so that a tradition of having the knowledge or communicating this particular information generations to generation, people have already associated certain medicinal plant with one or another deity. That is how when we talk about the wisdom and when we talk about the experience. So traditional food, which is also having, it's the way coming from generations after generation. They are not interested or they are not generated in laboratories. They are not having developed any academic clinical trials or anything. They have emerged from the countless generation of lived experiences, wherein the foods or the food recipes or the food product, the final product, which is always promoted the health, which combinations work synergistically as well as they are also going to give us the well-being of the human being. At the same time, one particular example I have just given, that is an nixtamalization, which is already taken place, especially on the corn. Okay. Now, this has already been used as a vitamin, that is vitamin B3, which is already going to become bioavailable, preventing pellagra, a potentially fatal deficiency disease. So it means traditionally our forefathers has already used this particular technique and utilized by even the Western world, who has already adopted the corn as an associated food, or you can say the crop, which is already having its own method, and the people struggle for centuries together. At the same time, in Indian food system, one particular point is always we have to look into. In Indian system as well in Indian society, a combination of the rice and the lentil or the dal is always going to give the complete protein profile along with the carbohydrates. And that is nothing but it is becoming a full source for amino acids, which is already essential for almost all the human beings. At the same time, they are also going to have a different way and different methods and different way of preparation of one or another particular food item. So these are nothing but which has already passed from the generations after generations. So now, when we talk about the way I have talked about a society and the culture. Now the culture, what is culture? It is belief. What is culture? It is behavior. What is culture? It is nothing but an object, and which is always common to the members of that particular society or that particular area. And through the culture, the people and group define themselves, talk about a society, because there it is always been told to us it is nothing but the shared values, and due to the sharing and caring, it can contribute to the society. And that is why we always talk about one another point which has to be calculated. So it is already valued. That is nothing but the relative cultural indices, which are of prime importance. So where the plants in our culture, plants in our society, and plants in our nation, they are having its own particular importance. And that is why we should know and we should value it, what exactly it is already going to be there. And that is why the documentation of the scientific knowledge of the common man, which is already been there, but it is not passed, or it is not given, or it is not been completely properly documented. That is what we are going to do it. And that is why that relative cultural indices are always going to give us the basic natural resource available in our own area. Now, what is the indigenous community? The indigenous community is already going to help in terms of the engagement and indigenous participation. It is also laying the groundwork. There are a number of agreements. Now, this here, I'm just combining it, what exactly the biodiversity and the food sciences are always going to combine together. Because it is already the agreements which are already coming into the picture, wherein one or another particular food recipe is already having its own importance, and then it has not been used particularly by that particularly at international level, and people are always going to charge, or they are going to value, or they are going to get the practice. That I will come it later on after when I will come back to the next points. And then that is why we had to talk about what the grievances, and we have to talk about the management, and we have to talk about the sharing benefit. So now this is where this particular circle is always going to be helpful, because the indigenous people do not know this particular thing. Now, what is the culture and society? Again, the culture and society always exist as a coexistent. They are having the knowledge, ideas, customs, skills, artifacts, and society is already nothing but the combination of different cultures. That is where it is already, we are always going to talk about the food. So now, this is nothing but one another traditional example I'm just showing you. This is nothing but an object, which we always say it is nothing but an the Warli painting. But a Warli community is already having its own traditional art and other things. So that's why it has to be patented, and people have already patented it. But again, then what is coming, the another wide point, especially at a commercial level, that is how the culture and society has to be totally interrelated. Now, this is another example where the society and the culture is always going to coexist. Now, I have given you two particular examples here. One is Madanafal and second one is Haldi. Now, what is the Madanafal? Madanafal is nothing but the Randia Dumaturum. Don't worry about the name, classical name, botanical name. And another one is Karkumalunga. This Madanafal as well as the Haldi is always tied on the hands of the bride and the bridegroom. Why? The reason is particular. That is the thing, but both these particular plants as well as the fur as well as the rhizome, they are having the religio-magical properties. Because these religio-magical properties are always going to keep away certain unwanted practices as well as the unwanted characters from the bride as well as the bridegroom. That's why. So it means one particular thing is there in one society, another particular thing is another society. Especially the Karkuma or the Haldi is used in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, but Madanfal is used especially Gujarat and Rajasthan. It means 2 or 3 different states, they are already having the same tradition, but instead of that, they are using 2 different plants, 2 different plant products, 2 different plant materials, and they both have considered and they are already been used since centuries. So automatically, both are already got the particular importance in the religious society, but it is a societal level importance. Whenever we talk about it, that's why another point comes, the belief and the science. So that is nothing but, and the Panchagavya is considered to be the Ayurveda, as well as our Ayush ministry is already working on this. So now the Panchakarma is already used as an one or the another combination, which is always going to have its own importance in the society. Certain rituals, there the Panchagavya is always going to be used. It means one society, one culture, and the science and the belief is already getting combination whenever we are always going to talk about one or another particular scientific background, so that it is always going to be useful to the people. Now, here I'm just combining it for the first time now. That is nothing but an ethnobotany as well as the Ayurveda. Because it is always considered to have the number of plants as a food, medicines, cosmetics, dyes, everything. And most of this research is already been totally based on the traditional knowledge, which is already been imposed upon scientific knowledge, so that particularly at present also, we are talking in a totally different way. We are talking about the culture, we are talking about the science, we are talking about the medicine, and we are talking of the society. So what exactly, how that society is already having its own importance to that particular local plant is always been used. This is nothing but in the Ayurveda, that is our Ayush ministry is totally covered under this. So these all are the natural resources which are already available. So now, here now I'm going to shift. That is the basic concept I have already presented to you. Now, whenever we talk about the Indian food system, now I'm starting with the solar system. That is nothing but the solar new year. So now almost all the regions, almost all the states, they are already having different names for the first day of the Hindu solar new year. That is nothing but a Navre, Vaisakhi, Bihu, Nabavarsha, Ugadi, Yugadi, Samvatsar, Gudi Padwa, Ugadi, then Puttu Chandu and Vishu. Almost all these all are the different names from the different states, but everybody talks about the happy solar new year. So now whenever we are talking about a solar new year, because each and every state is having its own culture, and that is why India is always considered to be the diversified nation. It is a multicultural, multilingual, multi-social, and having very many ethnic backgrounds. And that is why we are also going to have the different cuisines. We are also going to have the cuisines of different societies. They are also going to have the different cuisines at the religious pursuits. And that is why the Indian cuisine always varies from region to region. Some traditional cuisines are already there. Some of them I have covered. I am unable to cover almost all. So that is why few only I have covered in this presentation today. Because each and every tradition is always been totally based on the basis of that particular ethnic background and the natural resources available in that particular region. And that is why the dishes as well as the cuisines are always going to vary. Now, throughout another point, one particular point is always going to be, you have to understand, the India borders the passage of many surge distinctly, especially aromatic spices, from cardamom to turmeric. And the cardamom to turmeric is also going to have in between one particular point, that is nothing but the black gold. The black gold is nothing but the black pepper. Once upon a time, especially ethnobotanists, they already documented it, that the 1 kg gold is bartered with the 1 kg of the black pepper. As automatically, two things are always going to be there. How we are already going to get and got the name of the Sone Ki Chidiya. The Sone Ki Chidiya name has already come up due to this barter trade, wherein our forefather traders, they have used the black pepper as a black gold. And that's how they have already brought the gold to the Indian nation. Now, again, are the present day food raw material we are already using is only Indian? No, not at all. This particular map is already going to talk about the particular Pradeshas as well as the regions, which has already been dominated in most of the stories also. And particularly, whenever we talk about the Vedic times, the normal diet consists of the fruits, vegetable, meat, grain, dairy products, and honey. But one particular change has occurred. That is nothing but from meat and non-veg has already been used and converted to the vegetarianism due to the one particular philosophy which has already been enmarked in the Hinduism, that is nothing but ahimsa. But at the same time, after Hinduism, it has already been shifted to the Buddhism and the Jainism, where the variety of the fruits, vegetables, and grains is grown throughout the year. And as the shifting of the Indian society from omnivory to the herbivory has been shifted, automatically certain plants or the vegetables as well as the foods, they are getting prime importance than any other. Specifically, when we talk about Ayurveda, now I'm little going back, I'm just taking you back because two particular things has to be conveyed to you. Whenever we talk about the food, Ayurveda talks about the sattvic food, the rajasic food, and tamasic food. This tamasic food is always going to have, along with most of the non-vegetarians, The Rajasic food is always going to have the high nutritional quality food, and the Sattvic food is always totally depends on the herbals. And this has already been changed later on after the invasion from the Central Asia, Arabia, Mughals, and Persia, which has already been introduced certain other dishes into Indian subcontinent. Indian cuisine has already absorbed the new world vegetables such as tomatoes, chilies, and potato as the staples. But they are added recently in one. But if you come to know that the number of traditional dishes which has already been used, especially in India, they are already leaving or not using tomato as an basic material. They are also not using the potato as a basic material. So it means the tomatoes and potato, both the vegetables which are common and commonly used in present day at our home, are not a traditional food raw material. So now, when you talk about the sattvic, which promotes purity, milk, herbals, grains, fresh fruits, vegetables, honey, nuts, and beans. Rajasic, the coffee, chocolates, egg, chicken, onion, garlic. Tamasic, red meat, alcohol, fast food, fried foods, canned food, refined sugars, tobacco, and so on. So it means this is nothing but a common classification given by the Ayurveda. And now, what exactly India has been getting the help? We are always getting the help because we are already having the Asetu Himachal as our landmass, wherein from Kanyakumari to Kashmir and from Jaisalmer to Kohima, if we talk about the north to south as well as east to west, we are always going to have the very many variations in terms of the climate, in terms of the soil, in terms of the environment, in terms of the temperature. So automatically, bioavailability of the natural resources is always going to vary. At the same time, in between, the food became a marker of the religious and social identity, which always having its own taboos and preferences. Particularly, formerly around 50% or 60% Indian society was considered to be the omnivorous. Now, instead of introduction of the Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism, properly classical, traditional one, they are already shifted towards the complete vegetarianism, or you can say the herbalist we are already talking about. And now India only has around 25 to 30% of regular meat eaters. At the same time, one another particular point has to be taken into consideration. There are very many cardamoms, cumins, cloves, fennels, garlic, ginger, chilies, fenugreek, saffrons, and turmeric. Almost all these are common from north to south as well as east to west. So it means spices or the mixtures or the masala is nothing but a crucial element of Indian cuisine. They may be fresh, they may be dried, but the masalas always make use of the local ingredients. And on the basis of that, the grains, the pulses, and the vegetables are always local, and that is always going to give us the particular spices, particular flavoring, particular taste, particular zest, and particular coloring. Now, this is nothing but a complete combination of almost all the basic spices combination. The bay leaves, karnaful, dalchini, kali mirch, lawang, etc. Now, this usage has already enhanced after the introduction of the Mughlai cuisine, because the Mughlai cuisines are always using apricots, the melons, the peach, and plums. Along with that, they needed certain more taste enhancers, and that's why these all combination of the masala has already been used. And Due to that, the lavish dishes are always prepared after the addition of the cashews as well as the badam. And that's how one another complete newer cuisine has already been introduced. That is nothing but the Mughal cuisine. Even the Nizams of the Hyderabad, they have already developed their own particular style of cooking. And today, what we say, it is nothing but in the biryani. So now, if you check about one or another thing, automatically we are already getting introduced by the so many newer items. We are already getting introduced by the so many newer chefs, or you can say the knowledgeable people related to the foods. So that's how our Indian traditional food also has diversified from the traditional one. And after that, the Portuguese and Britishers, they also introduced the potatoes, tomatoes, squashes, and chilies. So, which has already been replaced the our local natural food sources. At the same time, what is the scientific basis behind that? Because our traditional food is always going to enhance the certain lactic acid bacteria and molds, which is always going to enhance the antibodies and bacteriocides. The beneficial health effects have already been documented. Then the food, which is already containing live lactic acid, etc., improve the resistance. And substance in traditional fermented food also found to have a protective effect on certain types of cancer. So these are the basic sound specific scientific basis of the using the traditional food. So now this is where now I have just introduced from the nature to the kitchen and how we are having a diversified amount of the cuisines. Now the first point I'm talking about, this is Tame je arogo cho tena lidhe a rogo thai. It means the common diseases are always caused due to what we eat daily. On one side, our traditional food system at our home. On another side, our commercial food system, which is available at commerce. So these two particular things are always going to play an important role related to our healthy lifestyle. Now, one particular point is always going to play an important role. Our food is always passed through generation to generations. And from cultural significance of nutritional value is our important option. At the same time, a cultural recipes or cultural heritage is always going to have its own particular sense or one particular taste, particular zest. It's due to that it is already having its own identity and its belonging. They also tells us the story of our own family, our own society, our own culture. It also talks about the customs and traditions, wherein we are always capable enough to get the historical aspect as well as the present aspect, and with the help of the food, we are always capable enough to transmit to the next generation. At the same time, there are certain foods which are always there made to honor and celebrate one's heritage. So it means it is always within the community. The next one is the traditional natural ingredients. Because the traditional natural ingredients generally talk about the whole grains, fresh fruits, vegetables, proteins, and healthy fats. At the same time, they are also not using the added chemicals, preservatives, or artificials. So that's how we are always using a natural against a synthetic. One another point is, it is also going to give us a balanced nutrition. Medicine and traditional recipes incorporate variety of the food in appropriate portions. And a traditional diet has been associated with numerous health benefits. At the same time, it also reduces the chronic diseases At the same time, it also helps to reduce certain modern lifestyle problems. It is also going to be tested on the basis of the experience as well as the wisdom of our forefathers. And at the same time, one particular thing is always going to give us, it is comforting and nostalgic about enjoying the traditional dishes. It also involves the family gatherings, holiday celebrations, special occasions, and one also gives us one particular point related to veg or non-veg traditional recipes has always power to soothe the soul and lead the spirits. So that's how it is always going to be helpful. And that is where now I'm just trying to talk about, is it the useful or it is a non-useful? Is it a proper living or it is properly non-living? A living is always going to give you almost all the health benefits. It non-livings are always not going to give you all the health benefits. Yes, it may be tasty, more colorful, more having more shelf life, and everything is more good. But at the same time, it is not having any particular life in the house because they are made and prepared after processing through one or another particular process. So now, what is the net result? The net result is the traditional recipes are nothing but a wealth of the benefits. And it also gives cultural heritage to natural ingredients, balanced nutrition, time-tested wisdom, as well as it gives or enhance or introduce the happiness more than a modern food. So now, when I talk about this, now one particular definition is always talk about food is the subtle language through which generation communicate their traditions. It is already been used and studied in anthropology, sociology, cultural history, and they are already talking about in another way that it is also helping in terms of the proper communication within the society, within our culture, within from generation to generations. That is where. So now, I will start with one or another particular way of the dishes, how they are even used. Now, the Happy New Year, that is the Gudi Padwa. It is Ugadi. It also termed as an Sahasranam. It is also termed as an Yugadi. Now, there, the pachadi is always been made. Now, the pachadi is always been made from the neem flowers, the mango, the jaggery, tamarind, red chili, and the salt. And now, our traditional people, they are already talked about one or another particular aspect of that particular raw material in that particular preparation of the pachadi. Because neem is always give the bitterness. Mango gives the tangy taste. Jaggery gives the sweetness. The tamarind gives the hot and salt gives the fear. That's what they are telling. But whenever you talk and consume the pachadi, you are always going to enjoy it. And that too on the first day of the Chaitri Navratri. Now, here it has always been used, especially from the Maharashtra downwards, it is already been made. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, even some parts of the northern Kerala, it has already been used. Now, it is also been considered to be, it is having the Ugadi Pachadi as having laxative effect. It is already been having some antacids. It is also having the laxatives also. So it means there are so many traditional beliefs about these medicinal properties of the traditional food products such as pachadi. Now, the next item. Here I am talking about ambil or anji. This is already been used, made in our last generation or our fathers' parental generations or the grandparental generations, and at present also it has been used. Now there are two different aspects and two different types. One is of the summer special and another one is of the festival special. The summer special one is always been using the millets as a basic raw material. Why it has been used as the basic raw material? Because the millets are the basic food of India. Rice has already been imported, wheat has already been imported, but the millets are nothing but and cultivated from the beginning in India. One is the white one, you are noticing it is nothing but and where the jowar flour has already been used. In another one, the little bit brown one, it is nothing but and the ragi or a nagli is already been used. And it always going to give you the calcium as a protein rich. And when you are consumed or made in the chas, it is always going to keep the body cool, especially in the summer. At the same time, in Maharashtra as well as in Karnataka, during the Gauri or during the Ganpati season, when the Gauri is already coming at our home, then at that time, the Gauri has always been offered one particular ambil or the kanji. But here, instead of the liquid base, it has already been made as a solid one, and it has been offered, and it has been served, and it has been consumed as a prasada. So it means two particular regions, two particular seasons, raw material is same, but having its own particular basic thing. So what we are getting it, the calcium, the magnesium, you can say the metabolism as well as the proteins properly. Now, this is one particular aspect of the process where across the cultures, the beneficial effect of the microorganisms to preserve the food, enhance the nutrition, new flavors and new textures, fermentation has always been used. And these provides nothing but the probiotics, which always support the gut health, but it also enhances the bioavailability of the nutrients, as well as it also enhances the compounds which are already not present in the original ingredients. So it is nothing but and always acting as a synergistic effect and often neutralizes the anti-nutrients or toxins. Now, the point comes, and most common one, idli or idada or khaman or nylon khaman. I do not know how many of you say or you know that the idli is the first or the idada is the first? Idada is the first or the khaman is the first? Khaman and nylon khaman are already considered to be the nylon khaman is recent introduction, but some historians and some traditional travelers text always talks about the idli is the product of the idada. Idada is having its origin especially from Saurashtra. And when the Gujarati traders, they have shifted their base from the Saurashtra or Gujarat and has landed in Tamil Nadu as well as in Kerala to get the spices for trading. At that time, they have carried away the process of the idada making, and after reaching in Tamil Nadu, the society or the local people, they have modified their version into idli. That is one talk. Second one is talking about idli is totally separately made by the traditional society, but it is not having any combination of connection with the idada. But later on, nowadays, it is always, one moment, please. But nowadays, it has always been considered that the idli is nothing but and the second one and idada is the first one. Second, when you talk about this, the ragi mudde, this is already been made in Karnataka and it is always considered to be the heavy breakfast. It is always soft cooked ragi balls are released with the buttermilk, small onions, and the spice of curry. It is healthy, nutritious, with boost the immunity, strengthen the bones. So this is always considered to be one of the most beautiful as well the healthiest breakfast apart from the idli. The next point comes here. People are considering it as a vada pav and a burger. I will prefer the vada pav instead of the burger. There are two particular reasons behind that. Burger is costlier, vada pav is cheaper. So in terms of the taxation to the pocket, the vada pav is cheaper. Vada pav is always fresh. Burger is not fresh. Because the patties in the burger is already been made at one place or another place. It has already been transferred from that particular production house to that particular outlet. And how much old that particular patties is there, I do not know. So automatically, I am always considering the vada pav over the burger. At the same time, one another point is there. Which sesame seeds or teal seeds are used on this pav? They also talks about their own particular brand. If it is a black, then one company. If it is a white, then another company. If it's black and white, then another company. How the burger people or those who are the producers, they know the particular nutritional scientific fact of the sesame. Because the sesame has already been used in Indian food since time immemorial. Particularly, I will come back to it later on. Another one, the pesarattu or the dosa. The pesarattu is from the whole moong or the moong dal. But the dosa is again the combination of the rice and the udad. So it means now two particular types, two particular thing, two both are coming from the southern India. One is totally famous and preferred especially in Telangana as well as the Andhra Pradesh, and the dosha is always preferred in Kerala and Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Both are always using or serving and hot one and highly served always along with the sambar. So now another question comes: sambar or the dal? Dal or the khati dal? Khati dal or pancharatna dal? Dal or maki dal? Dal fry or dal tadka? Now here again there is a story. Whenever I'm talking about this sambar or a dal, which is first? The khati dal or a dal is the primary. The sambar is the secondary. Means because whenever the Sayajirao has already gone and stayed along with his grandfather, especially at Tanjore, at that time he remembers the khati dal of Maharashtra, that is termed as an amti. And then he asks, I want to eat amti. But again, how to make it? So instead of the khati dal using made from the mango or the lemon, instead of that, khati dal, which has already been made there by the chef or the Maharaja of that Sayajirao, is nothing but, and he added the tamarind in that. And instead of serving only the dal, he has added almost all the available vegetables in that. And particularly, three particular vegetables has been added. One, the moringa, that is nothing but in the drumsticks. The second, the cucurbita maxima, nothing but in the kodu. And the third is nothing but in the curry leaves. Now, without curry leaves, Indian cuisine cannot be completed. Because the curry leaves are always having its own particular ethereal oils, and those ethereal oils which are present, they are always going to have its own particular taste and zest. The Pancharatna dal, instead of making it only one dal, it is already having the combination of almost all the 5 major dals. And this Pancharatna dal or Panchamaya dal is always consumed with the dal bati more than the normal. Maki dal or makhani dal. The maki dal is always going to have the urad dal plus the rajma in it. A makhani dal is already going to add more butter in that. And then on the basis of your own taste and zest, you are always going to prefer dal fry or a dal tadka. Because if you are liking the spicy dal, then go for the dal tadka. If you like little less spicy, then you can go for only dal fry. So now, dal preparations are the center of Indian meals because they are always served as a pure, or they are already served with the vegetables. They are also served along with the meat. But only consistency is always varying. In northern India, it is always thick and hearty stew-like, because which is always combined with bread, or you can say the roti. And the thinner one is always preferred in south because it always go along with the rice. Mostly chana dal is always preferred, but you can have the variations depending on which dal you are always going to make it. And on the basis of its own consistency, they are always going to vary the name, add taste, zest, color, etc. Now, the first, the Annam Prasada. This is always going to be served on the banana leaves. Banana leaves are always going to have one particular wax on that. And whenever you are adding or serving the hot rice on the banana leaves along with the hot dal or rasam, okay, then automatically the wax is always going to get melting. So automatically it is also been added, or 1 or 2 tablespoons or tablespoons of ghee is always added. So the combination of the ghee along with the banana wax and the rice always makes a really good combination. And that combination is always helping the eyesight. That is one particular science which has already been introduced, that particular culture, and it is always going to give one purity as well as spiritual transformation, and it is always going to have the different way. Now, this Anna Prasadam is always nothing but an thali. It is having its own cultural as well as it is also having own spiritual significance. It is also going to help together spirituality, the nutrition, culture, and heritage in a single transformative experience. That's why we are always going to go for the different ways of thalis. So in South India, this Anna Prasadam or South Thali is there. During that also, especially when you talk about the starting point, in the starting point, according to Ayurveda, you have to start food with always with the sweet dish. And that's why they are always making the payasam or a kheer. And when the kheer or a payasam is always shifting base from the south to the north, name is always changing, because when it reaches to the Kashmir, it comes the term as a name as an irony. Combination remains the same. The rice, the milk, nuts, and kesar. So this is the combination is always going to be there. Consistency varies. Consistency varies. In South India, it is somewhat more thinner, and when you go towards North India, from Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab to Kashmir, then it is the consistency is becoming more thicker and thicker. But again, it is also going to have the same combination, same thing. So it means traditionally, payasam is always been served initially to start with the food. So this is nothing but, and that's why I already just squeezed this particular one. Okay, this slide. Now here, there are six different types of thalis I'm depicting. One is a Gujarati thali, one is a Rajasthani thali, one is the Punjabi thali, one is a Maharashtrian thali, one is a Bengali thali, and one is an Odia thali. Depending on one particular ingredient only, you can check it and you can say that this thali is this thali is this thali is this. Because if you see, almost all they are always having minimum 2 to 4 types of vegetables, 1 or 2 types of dal, and 1 or 2 types of curries or curry, you can say. So it means it is always going to have the combination. So Annam Prasadam of the South India has already transformed into that particular type of thali from different areas. Out of that, Gujarati thali and Rajasthani thali are already got famous. Punjabi thali is not been there, but it is always considered to be the modern approach, wherein instead of going completely, it is already talking about a different aspect. Bengali thalis are always going to be having the ringans, as well as, that is ringana means it is brinjals, as well as it is also having the fishes. And in Odia thali, the rasgulla is always going to be there. In Maharashtrian thali, the modak is there. In Rajasthani thali, the this gatte ka shag is always going to be there. So automatically, the rest of the thing, color, taste, zest are maybe varying. Spices are maybe varying, but it is always going to be helpful in terms of a complete authenticity is always going to be there. Now the dal bati. Now here also, one particular thing you have to check it. Rice is not been used. Why? Because the wheat has already been introduced during the Aryan invasions, and water is not there available mostly in Rajasthan. So wheat was always been cultivated and still it is getting cultivated. That's why the dal bati becomes a basic food material. Along with that, it has always been served with the churma. The churma is also made from the wheat. Along with that, with the churma, one another ingredient is added, that is nothing but the khaskhas. So because it always gives the taste and the zest. So automatically, one or another particular having the science, the natural resources, and the taste, and the zest, and the bioavailability to the human being, along with the natural availability at the natural place, it totally decides the particular this. Now, another one is the Puran Poi. Now, I'm shifting from one state to another state. Sometimes I have not arranged it accordingly, but just what are the basic things and which ingredients are always going to be there, that is always going to be used here. The Puran Poi. It is having a one particular mythological story related to it. Because when the Mahadev, Parvati, and Ganpati, both three of them, they have already gone to visit Vishnu. Then they have asked, Lakshmi ji has asked that, okay, now you can have food along with us. Parvati said no. She said, if I'm going to have the food, because she was knowing the capacity of the Lord Ganpati. And that's why then she said, Ganpati, that okay, please keep patience, don't keep everything. But once the lunch has started, at that time, the Lakshmi has already faced the problem that everything which was already made to serve everybody, it has already only consumed by the Lord Ganpati. Then at that time, Parvati told, and Lakshmi ji agreed that, okay, you have to make something special. And that something special is nothing but it is termed as an Puran. the puran is nothing but an term as in stuffing. The stuffing is always of the chana dal, okay? But against that, whenever we talk about the vedmi in Gujarat, it is termed as an, it is always made up of the tuer dal, the chana dal, the sugar and the jaggery, or sometimes the chana dal plus rice plus sugar plus jaggery. So size is always variable. Quantity of the stuffing is always variable. Test makers are also variable. So basically, always the cardamom and nutmeg has always been added, and it should be always consumed with the ghee, because the digestion of this whole stuff is always going to help by the consumption of the puran puri with the ghee. So that is how it always varies. The puran puri is already having the different name as a holige in Karnataka, as Bhakshatalu in Andhra, and one more name Bappalatalu in Tamil Nadu. So it means one or another particular dish is always been known by our traditional food makers, which has already been transported from one place to another place. They are already, due to their own particular name, has already been got added to that particular one. Next, this is the Pancharatna Vada. This is a peculiarity of only the eastern part of the Maharashtra and the Telangana region, because this is always made only during festival days. It is not been made commonly. All basic 5 splits are already been used, and it is already having its own particular taste and the zest. According to your own taste and the zest, you are always going to add the curry leaves, the ginger, as well as the garlic, etc. So automatically, it is always going to have one or particular zang taste, and it always going to vary. The size and taste always going to vary according to those who are capable enough to consume. Next, this is the thing, but then the malpua. The malpua is always been made and served to the deities. This has always been considered to be one of the traditional dish made in Rajasthan. There, the wheat flour and the banana are always going to have made in the most appropriate way, and it has been offered to all the deities, especially during the Gangaur season. So automatically, check the variations. From another Gauri, I'm going to talk about third Gauri, I'm going to talk about Gangaur, the Malpua has been served. Gauri in Vidarbha region, as well as the Andhra Pradesh or Telangana region, the Puran Puri and the Pancharatna Vada has been served. When you come down to the Gauri for the Konkan region, instead of serving these, it has been always served with the Gavan Ghatle. The Gavan is nothing but an only rice. So it is nothing but a modified, you can say, modified version of only the rice flour. The Ghatle is nothing but the rice flour combination with the milk of the fresh coconut, or another, you cannot add it, then no problem. You are going to add another flour, and you are going to make it just like a thick curry or the Punjabi curry like that. So it is always been offered to the Gauris on the Konkan region. So now, the variety of the rotis. At present, we always talk about the fulke or the chapati. We talk about the Punjabi tandoori roti. We talk about the Rumali roti. The Rumali roti, fulke or the chapati is later introduced. Originally, we know the bread or the roti as the bajra rotli, jowar rotli, or the makai rotli. The makai rotli is always going to consume along with the sarso. That will come later on. So automatically, you can see how we are already shifting from the rotli to the rotla, or from rotla to the rotli we are shifted. And now again, in recent years, around 5 to 10 years, again, diabetes, lifestyle disorders has already created a problem. So automatically, doctors are suggesting stop consuming wheat. Instead of wheat, you prefer one or another millet, so that you have to shift towards the bajra, jowar, or makai roti. But again, makai roti, if it is of the traditional makai, not of the American makai. If the American makai you are using, then automatically you are always going to enhance the carbohydrate content as well as sugar content more. So that is why always good to prefer or shift towards the jowar or the bajra roti than others. The modakats. Again, this is, if you see, the rice is becoming common, almost all. The modak is nothing but an representing everything. So modakas are also filled up with the coconut flow of with fresh coconut. It may be fresh, it may be dry. It can be made with the help of the just by steaming or just by frying. So depending on that, it is always been offered during the festivities of the Ganesh Utsav. Then Sattu ka paratha. The Sattu is a nutritional marvel that would make modern nutritionists as little bit baffled. But the Sattu is always considered to play a major important role in the traditional days, as it is always considered to be one of the highest energy source to the fighting people or the soldiers. It is also having the same thing, highest amount of the protein source. It is also a combination, nothing of the protein and the carbohydrates. Depending on your taste and just herbs and spices are always added. Again, the ghee is already added to sustain the more amount of the energy. Another modification of the Sattu ka paratha is nothing but the litti chokha. Again, the same, except instead of the roti, it is already been made in terms of the, what you can say, the bafle. Okay, or you can say another way of the only the shape has changed, rest of the thing is always going to be there. So automatically, again here, variations are always going to be there. Depending on that, what chokha is always going to be used. The chokha is always consumed as an the bengan plus tomato and onion. But now, depending on the addition of the tomato and deletion of the tomato, totally depends on the whosoever is making. Because traditionally, it is only the brinjal and not the tomato. Now, when you talk about the rice, around 210 different land races were already available. So many names has already been there. Depending on that particular region, depending on that particular place, depending on that particular area, that particular rice variety is always been used. And particularly nowadays, instead of the local one, nowadays, especially during festival season, we are always shifting from the local to the global level. That is nothing but we are shifting towards the basmati rice. Now, here also it varies. Not only the bhat or the chawal, okay, it turned into the biryani by the Hyderabad Nizams. In Karnataka, it has already been as the yellow rice or the bisibele bhat, chitranna, tamarind rice. Bisibele bhat is nothing but our additional one that, okay, in the bhat itself, they are already adding the farsan on or and above it. The tamarind rice and chitranna, sometimes it is also termed as the different way. Different areas, Tamil Nadu, no, different name. Yellow rice, a different name. So automatically, tamarind rice is having its own particular taste and little color is coming. So it is always going to be different. And biryanis may be the veg biryani or the non-veg biryani. Particularly, it is a non-veg biryani. Then as the biryani has to be introduced to the vegetarians. Then this is appe, paddu, guliyappa. Appes are already common in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala. Okay, depending on its own, it has to be made fried one it has to be made steamed. Totally depends on it. Combination is always going to be there. It is always been served along with the traditionals. The khichdi or the khichado. Khichdi is considered to be the Indian health dish. And initially, as well as today also, and in the past also, it has always been considered as a baby's first food. Depending on the consistency and depending on the nature, the spicy, tasty, zesty nature, the khichdi always varies. At present, people say that, okay, it is approximately around 100 or 120 types of khichdis we can make it by addition of one or another additional or deletion of one or another item. Then the khichdo is there. Khichdo always varies. Khichdo is always prepared and made during the Sankrantis. And along with the khichdo, along with the khichdi, they are always going to have the four major yars: the ghee, papad, achar, and dahi. If all these four major yars are not there, then nobody can replace the kadhi. So the kadhi, which is nothing but and the proper probiotic, kadhi is a modified version of the probiotic. That is nothing but the yogurt or the dahi. Okay, so here also the basin, it means again the protein rich, the gluten-free base. It is also having the cumin and the mustard, so it is also going to act as a stimulant. It is also having the curry leaves, which are rich in antioxidants and micronutrients. So in another way, that dahi kadhi is also considered to play an important role in the traditional bath. Then the sesame. Sesame seed is considered to be the rich in calcium, zinc, and essential fatty acids. Now, the tilgu is considered to be prepared only during the Sankranti, but you can also make it in a different way. So that is nothing but depending on what basically you are talking about. You can say it is nothing but the revdi also, because the revdi is considered made up of generally instead of the jaggery, the sugar is always been used, and it is also been consumed because it is always helping to digest, as well as it is also to give the body warm during the winter season. Now, this is our traditional food during again the Sankranti. One is vadiyu, another one is undiyu. Now, basic ingredients are always remain same. Both are always going to have a different taste. Particular thing depends on how you are making. And what are the basic ingredients? The papdi, surti papdi. The papdi and surti papdi is always going to have what? It is always going to have the highest amount of the dopamine, and which is always considered to be the feel-good factor. That's why whenever we consume the undhiyu or the ubadiyu, we are always going to get it. Yes, we are getting refreshed. So automatically, along with this, jalebis are there, so no problem. But again, each and every region is always going to have different leafy vegetables. Okay, the palak is there, methi is there, sarso is there. Then what I can say, name is totally different. Amaranth is there, or the muli shag is there, the gonguru is there, poi is there, patras are there. So always going to have its own particular taste and zest, depending on how it has been used in one or another particular dish. It always varies. So now, they are always going to have the protein, calcium, iron, zinc, essential amino acids, minerals, antioxidants, fibers, and others. So this already you know, so I will move past a little bit. The last one, okay, that is nothing but the pachadi. This is nothing but the mukhwas. What is the panjiri is always considered to be India's holistic health traditions, culinary artifacts, which is wisdom of contemporary wellness practice. And these are nothing but our cultural heritage, culinary wisdom, and nutritional understanding and spiritual significance. That's how we are always going to keep alive the rich gastronomic legacy of our ancestors. Now, I am shifting a little bit from the traditional to the modern and that till modern, but coming from the traditions. A jungle ka khana khazan. This we are already using it. Okay. Professor Manisha is known because she has already gone for the National Fest. There also this particular competition has already organized. Okay. There are so many others. We are always using the wild flowers, wild leaves. Okay. And they are already used for making one or another particular dishes. So many already available. Okay. This is nothing but an modified version of the Manchurians. Okay. So now they are already credit has already been given to them. No problem. So now what we are talking about the cultural importance of the use value. Use value is an average number and cultural value is nothing but the proportion of the informant cognizant. So in the each use category. So it means we have to always collect the information in the most properly. And that is where people are already working at a global level. Culturally important plants are those which are used by the large number of people for the same category of the use. So this is where the variation in terms of its usage of natural resource it varies. And the cultural importance and the relative importance, they are already interchangeable. So it means sometimes your information, I have can use it, my information, you can use it in that way. And that is why the indices are always going to give us a proper understanding about the intracultural variation of the natural resources or the food which has been used by the common people or the society. That is where we are going to get it. So that's why. Thank you very much. I hope you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for your lucid talk explaining us our vast Indian culture system related to food and how our culture and society has modified our traditional food based on the needs of the geographical location. You have highlighted with a very simple examples, right from desserts, vegetables, roti, chapati, snacks. I was like, uh, thinking of what all examples we are using in our teaching Indian knowledge system subject. You have explained us so beautifully how well we can also incorporate those basics in our teaching as well. So we have one question.
Yes.
In today's time, we are focusing more on convenience food, or we call it as HFSS foods. You have also highlighted that. How can we inculcate our traditional diets to these new generations who are already vulnerable to the burden of NCDs?
There are so many traditional breakfast recipes are already available.
Okay.
Okay, those breakfast recipes we have to introduce at our home first. Especially
Yes.
that's why I have already given that appes, yali appes and others. Okay, there you have to just modify by addition of one or another or deletion of one or another ingredient. It is already made up from the mostly from the rice flour, or you can go for the wheat flour. Okay, that's where you can ferment it, you can fry it, you can steam it, you can roast it. Okay, the different tastes are always going to come up by the process because instead of talking me in terms of how that process or the preparation should be, you people are more knowledgeable than me. So automatically you can modify like that. There are so many others are there. I can add few others also. They are nothing but and we talk about the uh, like minute another morning breakfast chillas are there.
Yeah.
Okay, the chillas you can make it. Okay, you can use it from, you can make it from the rice. So it just turn into the ghavan. You can make it as a dosa by adding the wheat flour. You can make it as you add even one or another flour depending on your taste, the chana dal flour or the moong dal flour or the urad dal flour or the tuver dal flour. Okay, then add certain fresh vegetables the way I have talked
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Okay, because see, particularly the poi, you might not have been used anytime.
Mm.
Okay, do you know what is a poi?
So is this a bhaji which is like जो 5 दिन के fast में we use it?
Huh?
The is it a green leafy vegetable bhaji?
It is a green leafy vegetable bhaji, but it is already used more commonly by certain people. Okay, they are already having two different varieties. One is Bacilla alba, one is Bacilla rubra. Okay, sorry. It is
That's
already
okay.
having two different colors. Okay, the alba means white, and a rubra is nothing but the red. They are already leaves are already having the red petiole, and one is having the green petiole. Okay, but it is having its own particular peculiar taste. The
Taste.
way we are always using the patras, you can, if you are getting the larger leaves, you can make the patras of patra like that, and you can consume it.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is another one that is nothing but in the gongura. Okay, those who are from the Andhra Pradesh, they know it what is
Okay.
gongura. But here also, especially in Gujarat and Maharashtra, it is termed as an ambadi. Okay, it is highly cutty, means
Mm.
most cuttiest leaves are always going to be there. Okay, so that can also use it by making addition of that one. So particularly our own great or grandmother's recipes of the breakfast we have to introduce. Where we are trying to introduce it, and we can modify it according to the needs, according
Needs.
to the deeds, according to the nutrition, and according to its own importance. And then we can just modify for the taste and the zest. So if we go for the modification of the taste and the zest, which one we our kids are always going to like it, then you can
Yes.
introduce it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so many are already there. Okay, the way it is, I can give you the example. The best example is the poha.
Mm.
Okay, we are making pohas. Yes, the pohas or the poha which we are already getting here in Baroda. Okay, they are totally different because the process is different.
Yeah.
You go to Indore or Ujjain, you are also going to get a totally different way. Okay, you come down to the Maharashtra, especially the Vidarbha region, the pohas are already given along with the curries. Okay, the curry is always been served along with that. Okay,
Yeah.
the same thing you can always be modified into the misal pav.
Yeah.
Okay, so it means traditionally you are always going to serve with the same thing. Okay, now the misal pav which we are getting in Baroda is always of the only the peanuts.
And
Sorry, not peanuts. I can say the but especially when you go towards the Kolhapur or Solapur, you're always going to get along with it is not a green peas. It is always the matki is always going to be used. So it means whatever which is available in our region, that particular lentil we can use it. We can grind it and make it. There are others also. Okay, if you are talking, say already like that. One another example I can talk about. The idalas already been shifted towards the sandwich idalas. The idalas already shifted to the idala, and the common already had been sandwiched also. So those are things. The newer things are already there. That's why I already talked about what exactly and how exactly our kids are always going to like it. We have to make it like that because two particular things we cannot stop. One, a change. Another change which is already there and done along with the marketing. So, are we capable enough to market our own product? Okay. All our TV commercials, they are
yeah.
banging like anything. Best example I can give you. when around 40 or 45 years back, when Maggie has introduced by the Nestle, at that time, okay, they have to give free of cost. Yes, I have got it as a free of cost, first few packets. Then at that time, our parents have not allowed us to not to consume that one. Today also, now we are asking that, okay, the kids are always asking that, okay, we want the Maggie.
Mhm.
All right. But Maggie is already having that particular test maker, E451 or E452. That is one. I have forgotten the name. Along
Yeah.
with that, it is also having the Ajinomoto. Okay.
Yes.
So instead of asking or making the ready-made one, okay, we can make it the same way Maggie. Get his vermicelli, which is already available, and make at home. Instead of adding those things, we can add our own vegetables, our own spices, make it spicy. Already certain Korean and Thai Maggies have already been introduced, which are
Yeah.
more spicier than the Nestle. So now they are getting more market than this. So we can change it. We have to. Yes.
Rightly said, sir. We also give the same example, replacing a Maggie with vermicelli, sevaiya upma, or a burger with a or a pizza base with a rotli bhakra rotlo modification, and the toppings that the whatever is cooked at the home, we can modify it as per the child's or the younger generation's need. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
As we come to the end, I extend my heartfelt vote of thanks to our honorable vice chancellor, Professor Balchandra Bhange, for his best wishes and blessings for the webinar. I extend my heartfelt thanks to our Dean Ma'am, Professor Anjali Pahar, for her enthusiastic support and motivation. Earnest thanks to our head, Professor Vanisha Nambia, for always encouraging us to conduct such webinars. I express my gratitude to our speaker, Professor Vinay Raole, sir, for enlightening us with the immense knowledge on science of food, and especially the traditional foods and the history of our traditional foods. Thanks to all the organizing committee members for all the smooth coordination and support for the program. Our heartfelt thanks to all the participants who have joined us in Zoom as well as watching us live through Facebook for your active participation. Once again, thank you all, and see you again tomorrow for another webinar at the same time. Thank you.